Welcome to Spooky Times with Eric D. I am your Eric D. Tonight is a very special night because we have our first ever celebrity guest. We've had guests before, but most of the time they're people that I know, friends of mine. There's been a couple of occasions where we've had guests that were of special interest, such as our Halloween collector friend or the owner of Count Orlok's Nightmare Gallery. But tonight we have an honest-to-goodness horror celebrity, Miss Eileen Dietz. You might know her better as Captain Howdy, a.k.a. Pazuzu from The Exorcist. You might have also seen her in a little movie called Planet of the Apes. You might know her from General Hospital. Not really my kind of thing, but my mom loved it, and maybe you did too. And now she does tons and tons of independent horror movies all the time. You see her pop up in things all the time, and she's got a lot of work under her belt. So it was a pleasure to talk to her. Now, the issue with this interview, and it's not really an issue, but you know, things go wrong every once in a while. And we had set a time. We met at the time on Zoom, of course, and things went wrong. They always, there's gremlins in the machine. You know that? So we had some audio-video hookup problems at first, and we were actually quite delayed in starting our interview. So we were very pressed for time, which made me kind of jumbled. So this interview does jump around a little bit. It's maybe not as smooth as it would have been had I been able to go through my notes exactly instead of trying to cherry pick and get to things that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, and all that kind of thing. It's a little bit frantic of an interview, but I think you guys are going to like it. You're going to hear all kinds of things that I think you will find interesting. Of course, for the purpose of this show, I focused mostly on The Exorcist and Helter Skelter, which she was also in, the original TV movie version of it. And you're going to hear, of course, listen, I know I've said I'd stop talking about it, but of course I brought up the issue with Linda Blair. And if you think I have issues with Linda Blair, wait till you hear Eileen's thoughts on the subject. You'll also hear how she got cast in The Exorcist, and you'll hear how she got cast in Helter Skelter too, which is an interesting story and involves a mind troop cult of some sort. Trust me, I wish I had asked some follow-ups on that one. And, of course, as you'll hear in the interview, Eileen does mention that she is willing to come back another time and talk with us some more. So hopefully that does happen, and hopefully we'll hear from her again soon. As we talk, there are a couple of visual elements that might need further explaining, so I will interrupt here and there with current commentary just to describe what Eileen holds up or what I point out at this moment. Of course, if you want to see the video, you can check out, I'm going to be putting a couple clips on YouTube, but if you want to see the full interview unedited, it'll have even a little bit more than I have put into this edited version for the show. You can join the Patreon, and that's patreon.com/witchfinder, because of course Spooky Times with Eric D is a Witchfinder production. You can choose your level. It'll be available to all levels. And of course, you'll have other goodies to look for there too. I usually do videos at least twice a month, and sometimes other little things, photo dumps. Eventually there'll be exclusive episodes and that kind of thing. So if you're looking to support the show, if you love the show and you appreciate the work that I do as the Witchfinder on YouTube and in person on the streets of Salem, then the best way to show your support is by joining the Patreon, and you get some exclusive goodies there as well. Other than that, of course, check out the website, spookyas.com. That will allow you to listen to almost each and every episode of the podcast. There are over 200 now, and you can also find links to the social media, the most important one being Instagram. No, maybe not the most important, but the one that I use the most, and that is at Spooky Times with Eric D. Imagine that. All right, so without further ado, here is my rushed but still enjoyable interview with Captain Howdy, a.k.a. Pazuzu, Eileen Dietz. So hello, first of all.
Hello, first of all. How are you?
I'm well. I
don't know what the heck happened, but
yeah, we figured it out. Okay, so let me tell you the story of the first time I saw The Exorcist.
Works for me.
I was in high school when I started to get really into horror movies. I was into horror movies before that, but mostly the kind of goofy ones like the Leprechaun and any like those little critter movies. My mom loved those kind of movies, and we
Yeah.
used to get them from the video store on Saturday afternoons. But we didn't get into anything too hardcore like The Exorcist. My girlfriend and I in high school decided we'd have some friends over her house and we'd watch a scary movie. And we said, well, none of us have seen The Exorcist yet. This was in the late 90s, by the way. And so we said, okay, well, let's go. We'll go to the video store. We'll get The Exorcist. We'll make a night of it. And we get to her house, my girlfriend's house. And her mom says, oh, how you guys doing? How's everything? What movie are you guys going to watch? We said, The Exorcist. And she said, not in my house. She said, she's like, I don't even want that in the house. Get it out of the house. And we thought she was joking. And we like started to put it on, like put it in the, VHS or whatever. And she's like, get out of this house now and watch that somewhere else if you must watch it, but you're not watching it here. And I don't want it in the house. And her mom was not like a religious nut or anything like that. Like she was a cool lady, So I was like, what the hell is this reaction? So I was like, it's all right. We'll go to my house. So even, this is more than almost 30 years after it was released. It still packed a wallop.
What depends what part of the 90s. The movie was released in 73.
Yeah.
And so the
so more like 25, I guess, closer to 25. But
50th
still,
anniversary
the point remains.
is coming up. And I don't look 50 years old, do I?
No, well, you know what? I mean, I do know your true age because I've been doing a lot of Googling on you. And I would say by far you do not look your true age. I'll say that much.
Don't say it out loud. They actually, they made a mistake. IMDb made a mistake. And so that's what I'm stuck with. And I can't change it. But it's about 10 years difference.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
As far as Exorcist
So how much
goes,
did it freak you out?
Well, it freaked me out pretty good because, I mean, first of all, even as a little kid, I knew the difference between a movie and reality, but I was also raised Catholic. And it's not that the devil was really overly discussed at my church or anything like that. It did come up from time to time, in CCD class and stuff like that, but it wasn't, but still from the olden days, we had the idea of possession. And of course, I grew up in a time after The Exorcist. So possession was pop culture by that point, thanks to you guys. And so it was out there.
Well, my husband was brought up Catholic, but he says he's still going to ask for the last rites just in case.
Yeah, couldn't hurt, right? That's the great thing about being Catholic. You get that, last chance.
I think God lives in all of us. Yeah. So I'm not quite an atheist. I just don't think God lives up there. God lives in all of us. So when we talk or we pray, we're talking to ourselves and creating our own existence.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the play Galileo.
You read my book, you can find out all about it.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk all about everything that you have available. And we'll just say now, EileenDietz.com is your one-stop shop for all that.
Yeah, but don't buy from there. It won't work. If you go there and you like something, then friend me or send me a private message and we'll work it out from my website. From my personal messages.
Okay.
Besides, you can't get it autographed off the website.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
There you go. So it's much better. Go to my Facebook is Eileen Dietz. It's the picture of me as a clown because I have 2 other websites. And then just send me a private message. But if you send me a message just to talk, this demon's going to get really mad.
She's only there for the business reasons, not just chat and be your pen pal.
Yeah, it's a private message. So I'm there for my relatives or very, very close friends, and that's what it's for. Otherwise, send me a notification and we'll chat that way.
All right, sounds good. All right, so let's start talking about the movie. I know that you were in an off-Broadway show. Is this correct?
Yeah, let me tell you one thing about the movie, though, before we quite move away. This is my theory why the movie is still so popular. My feeling is, and thank you, my God, I shot 10 movies last year, 10 or 11, something like that. And I got 3 coming up this year, and they're all horror. I think some really, really good ones, but we'll get back over there later. And my theory is in all films, horror or anywhere else, that you have to identify with the people that are up there. It has to affect you on some kind of personal level, whether you love it or you hate it or you're scared by it, but you have to be able to identify with it. And the brilliant thing that Dick Smith did, the makeup artist, is that he made the demon, Captain Howdy, Pazuzu, extremely accessible. So we did, and some of you have probably seen it, we did makeup tests with big eyebrows and eyes and teeth and stuff like that. And Dick whittled it down to the face you see now, which is basically scars all over the face, and with the eyes when you needed it. So therefore, when a parent walked into the room of their own house, they didn't know if they were going to see this demon, see if this kid has transformed into the demon, because it was so close or identifiable, you know what I mean? That it could happen to their kid, and they could have their kid show up with scars. And the same thing with the kids that I talk to, a lot of them at horror conventions, they can see themselves being that possessed child. And that's what freaks everybody out. And then, I've had kids tell me they lived under the bed or they thought there was a monster under the bed, or they really thought they were going to be possessed in the middle of the night. And I'm absolutely confident that that's what makes it work. And if you're Catholic, it's even more intense, because you know about possession, you know about devils and demons, and kids and parents feel that that makeup, that child could be theirs or could be themselves.
One factor I forgot to mention, this, I hadn't seen The Exorcist when I was a child, but I was my father died when I was very young. So I was thank you. I was a very sensitive kid, but I was also the youngest in my family. And my older brother would mess with me all the time. And he had me convinced that there was a devil that lived in our closet, and other horror stories. But that was one of the big ones. So I definitely grew up as a kid with the fear of the devil. And, like I said, and then you'd go to church, and it's not like they talked about it a lot, but it came up. So it was presented as like a real thing. And then my brothers whisper in my ear, like, yeah, he's real and he's coming for you. So it was like, oh God. And then any sin you heard about, it was like, well, I think I do that. Like, do I lie? Yeah, I guess I do sometimes. And so it became, so I think
I don't know why the Catholic Church banned it, because the devil loses at the end. The devil doesn't win. Devil goes out the window. So I'm not sure why they banned it.
Yeah,
we can talk about that another time. We can move on.
Yeah, but also especially where the priests were so heavily involved in the making of the movie. You had priests in the cast. You had people that were studying to be priests. You had people that were studying with the priest to play their part. So it's not like they weren't involved. And of course, the William Peter Blatty had done lots of research when he wrote the book and the screenplay, and wanted it to be, they keep saying in the documentary, on the 25th anniversary documentary, Fear of God, they mentioned that a lot, that they didn't want it to be another Rosemary's Baby. I think Rosemary's Baby is an awesome movie, but I understand what they're saying. They wanted it.
Rosemary's Baby came out well after The Exorcist.
No, came out in
1980.
Rosemary's Baby? No. 68, 69, something like that.
You can't. No,
maybe even earlier.
We have to look it up on IMDb. I don't think it came out that early.
Yeah, I promise you. Yeah. Well, it couldn't have been too late, because Roman Polanski left in the 70s, right? That was the last time he was seen around here.
I don't know. But I always liked Rosemary's Baby. I was a very strange kid, and I wanted to be an actress since I was 7 years old. Anyway, except through sex, because I didn't think I was probably going to be good enough. And so I never thought there was a problem with what Rosemary's husband did. He made a deal with the devil. So what? He got what he wanted.
Well, I mean, I suppose Pazuzu would think that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get back to how you entered this film, because you were in an off-Broadway play, and one of the producers.
This is what happened.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about Steam Bath with Tony Perkins. That's another whole story
well,
in
you can.
itself. Yeah, I did a play called Ontological Proof of My Existence, which means that you don't exist, by a woman named Joyce Carol Oates, who previously just wrote about wrestling. And she wasn't a novelist, but she wrote a preface to one of her books about wrestling, and that was Ontological Proof of My Existence, which it was just a great little play about a girl who came from Detroit to fall in love and meets this pimp instead, and she's so desperate to be loved, he puts her in the basement, and she's very androgynous, and he starts bringing boys and girls for her. It's very sad. But two agents came to see the show, which always amuses me, because even now in LA, they say, why do you want to work for free? Why do you want to, do plays? You got to make them pay you. I mean, most of us use theater not only as an exercise ground to keep your blood moving and keep you acting if you're not acting, but because it's a thrill to work with audiences, but also you never know who's going to come see it. And so they came to see it, and they called me the next day. And in New York, you didn't have to be with one agent at the time. You could be with lots of agents. So they called me and they said, hey, we're casting for this horror film. They're looking for someone small who can act. And do you want us to submit you for it? A principal. It was a principal part, as opposed to an extra or anything like that, or a double, which I wouldn't have done. Which is very odd, because if it was a double, I never would have auditioned for it, and we wouldn't be talking now. But lots of people out there in the world think that I'm a double. They think I'm a stunt double. They think I'm not. I was a principal. And so I went, and most of it you have to read about in my book. But I went and met the casting director, and she told me to go home and read the book that you mentioned, which is fabulous. And I encourage everybody to read it. It's better than the film, if you can imagine. And so I came back, did a couple improvisations. I played the devil and the little girl, like, mommy, help me, you pig. I did that for the audition. I went home, and I didn't know how to play a demon. So I thought the closest thing was wild animals. So I went to the library, got a book about wild animals. Sat in my room, closed the shades. We had shades then. Lit some candles. And that's really what I did. I just played all these animals. And I guess it worked. Because then I met Billy Freakin and the amazing Dick Smith. And what's her name? Oh, Linda Blair. And did a screen test even. We also tested out some of the special effects. So I did a screen test for this part. And again, I did the same thing, but they brought out a crucifix that was this big. Crews always have a sense of humor. And again, I did the same thing again, except it was for, oh, mommy, help me, you sow, you pig. And I just played both parts. And I got the part.
Yeah. So another great thing about that documentary I mentioned earlier, Fear of God, is there's clips of you outside of makeup doing everything that you just mentioned.
Really?
So
I think
have you not seen it?
I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, it's you, and you're not wearing your makeup. And they mention you by name, which is nice to see you getting credit for the work that you did. And
that's because Billy Freakin didn't put together the documentary, right?
He's in it, and he's one of the people that mentions you. No, he didn't put it together.
He mentions me. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. He says no, in this scene that was Eileen. When we do close-ups of a certain scene also involving a crucifix, that's Eileen. Really? Anytime someone's getting slapped, that's Eileen.
The reason I don't have credit in the film is because everybody wanted Linda. Everybody wanted everybody to think that Linda did all that work.
Yeah.
which is also my theory about why they didn't win any Oscars, because everybody in LA and New York knew that Linda didn't do that work, especially the masturbation scene. And in a, actually, there were actually 6 people, believe it or not, that played that character, from the lighting double, the stunt double, Mercedes McCambridge, who did most of the voice, the girl who did the spider walk, and Linda Blair and myself. 6 people they put together as to one character. Nobody knew it.
Yeah.
That is movie making.
Yeah.
That's movie magic. And they decided, the bean counters or something, decided that it would be scarier if they thought Linda would do the work. Well, and I know, people don't look at credits, except, like film people, really.
Yeah.
And I really think they would have won those Oscars that they coveted so much if they had just come out and said, yeah, we did this and you never knew it. And it wouldn't have hurt the movie at all. But
well, that's the thing about making a movie is it's like a magic trick, and sometimes even if you know how the trick is done, it doesn't take away the appreciation. It's like Penn and Teller, when they teach you how they did a trick, it's still something that you couldn't do, sitting at home.
You're absolutely
you're like,
right.
it's still amazing,
And most people wouldn't have even known, people watch the Oscars. Even then, they didn't have to say why or how. But even Gil Cates, who is the president of Motion Picture Academy, said it, at the time, that if this Exorcist wins for Best Picture, I'm leaving. I'm quitting. So that's one of the interesting stories behind it. And I didn't get credit because they said, is it okay if we don't give you credit? Who knew? It was my first major motion picture. I had worked in New York. I did a couple very small soap opera parts, and you know what I mean? My first movie was called Teenage Gang Debs, and they fought with knives and killed people. So I had worked, but this is my big, first motion picture, and now, why? How can I be drawing a blank? I'll get it in a second. I'd watched him in all those Swedish movies, so I was, going to work with him. So I was very excited, and I didn't care about Max von Sydow. Sorry, Max. May you rest in peace. So I didn't care about whether I got credit or not until halfway through the shooting, because then, not only, of course, was I playing Pazuzu, at that time, we didn't know we were shooting Captain Howdy, the most famous shot from the whole movie, which Warner Brothers uses all the time now in all their publicity and all their stuff, but they still don't give me credit for. But I was hired for the masturbation scene, and I ended up doing the death scene at the end, the levitation, the vomiting scene, the slapping scene. So I was on the film for 4 months because we took a month off so they could redo the set.
Because it burned down, right?
No, the fire was someplace else. They redid the living room set because Billy Freakin didn't like it. So we all on kind of this very expensive kind of unemployment, because they had to pay you at that time, because otherwise you could leave. So they had to keep the contract going in order to keep people around.
Very good. Well, let's talk about, that crucifix.
See, you don't have to say anything. I can just keep going.
Yeah, no, that's good. That crucifix scene, when people, because, people today, they'll be like, oh, Exorcist isn't that scary, or it's not that intense or whatever. And I always point to that scene and say, that is truly a disturbing scene, the masturbation scene. And I think, obviously, if you're Catholic, it means even more, but I think any kind of Christian understands what's being done there and that kind of desecration with that. So that, anytime anybody says, oh, it's not that intense a movie, I have to say, I disagree. It's
much younger kids, much younger kids are so, I think there's a difference between horror and thrillers, and all the great movies, the 70s and 80s were thrillers. They had a cast, they had people that you either liked or hated, they had a plot, they had things change. So I call them thrillers. And horror today is, a lot of it is just blood and guts. And then Texas Chainsaw well, they don't even have a lot of blood in there. So
they make you think you're seeing a lot, but they
yeah,
actually don't show a
particularly
lot.
on
Yeah.
Chainsaw.
Yeah.
And all of them, Halloween, Friday the 13th. But kids making movies now, they think they can just put all that blood and gore in there and that'll make a movie.
Yeah.
So some of the kids go, oh, that's not scary. There's no blood. There's no nothing. And they have to listen to it, because it's all about what's going on in the movie. So I think that's what's happening. But you still see some really younger kids that are totally freaked out by it, because I meet them all at horror conventions.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Speaking of horror conventions, can I go over the story of the first time we met?
Yes.
And the aftermath?
Yes. I don't know when that was or what the aftermath was.
I can tell you exactly.
Go ahead.
It was 2004. And I was in my early 20s, and I had just started going to horror conventions. And I went to the Rock and Shock horror convention that used to be held in Worcester. They just closed a couple of years ago, but they were doing it for many years in Worcester. And you were there. And I knew later in that same month, I was going to go to another horror convention in New Jersey that Linda Blair was going to be at. So I said, you know what? While I'm here at this horror convention.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Why don't I buy an Exorcist poster and I'll have Eileen Dietz sign it. And then I'll bring it with me to New Jersey and I'll have Linda Blair sign it. So as you can see, the poster is right here behind me. Still got it. And you also gave me this picture here. Not gave me, but at a very steep discount from Helter Skelter. Because I told you that was, as I mentioned, my mom and I used to like to watch scary movies on Saturday afternoons. And that was one of the ones that I remember watching. And we had talked about that. And so we had a nice conversation, like I said, and then, went on my way to New Jersey. Now,
Chiller or Monster Mania?
This was Chiller. And I know it was 2004 because it was the first year I shaved my head. And my head looks very pale. But Linda Blair was there. So I bring up my Exorcist poster signed by you. She takes one look at it and she says, I'm sorry, but I can't sign that. I don't sign anything and I'm pretty sure this is almost exact wording. It's still in my mind. I don't sign anything that woman has signed. I know there's no way you could have known that. And I know you could always get me to sign something and then she could sign it after. But she's just made such a nuisance of herself. I think that's the word she used. She's made such a nuisance of herself. I can't sign it. And I, maybe now with a little more maturity behind me, I would have confronted her a little bit more, not in a mean way, but just said, well, whatever your feelings towards Eileen, for whatever reason, that's got nothing to do with me. I'm a fan. You were both in the movie undeniably. So whatever the fight is about, you were both in the movie and I'm a fan of the movie. So I wanted both of you to sign the poster. And if you don't sign it, you're not punishing Eileen, you're punishing me, and that's how I feel
and
now.
People have said that to her.
Yeah. So I don't know. I still have that picture too. I look pretty much the same, I think. So good on me.
I don't want to look at it. That woman I know she was 12 and people fed her a lot of nonsense about, she honestly totally believes she would have won the Oscar if I hadn't come out to California, and I was invited to come out to Hollywood from Warner Brothers, and they set me up, and because I got all this publicity, who did what, in The Exorcist. So as far as she's concerned, she would have won the Oscar because there was a very famous gossip columnist in LA that ran the story, that I was in LA and I was doing this, that, and the other thing. None of it was true. Because I didn't want anything. They invited me to come out. I was happy. I just wanted to be able to put it on my resume. And, it was dreadful. I thought my career was over. And again, if you read my book, but I really thought my career was over, and it was everything I ever wanted. And there were a couple of agents that were going to sign me and they dropped me. So it was very horrendous on my part. And all I kept saying was, some people painted a picture of me being this excuse the blonde reference, but so, dumb, stupid blonde that would do anything for publicity. And I didn't want anything. And so I finally found an agent that would handle me. And I think the first job I see your Planet of the Apes picture. Is that right? The first job I did out in LA was Planet of the Apes. And I just walked on the lot because I didn't know that you can't get on there now because of 9/11 and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I started working, and I did that. I did Happy Days. I did Helter Skelter. I did General Hospital, which was one of my blah, blah, blah. But that's why she hates me so much. And we've never done a show together, which is the only reason I hate her, because she's cost me a lot of money and she won't do a show with me. Oh, we did one show together, Days of the Dead, because I was asked to do the show first. And Bill Philpott said, Linda wants to do the show. Is that okay? And I said, yeah, sure. I don't care. And we were in separate rooms. I never saw her. And I made a fortune. And then she did, of course, sign things that I had signed. But a lot of times people would go to her first and then go to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, this was almost 20 years ago. So I hope that she's changed that policy by now, but I don't know. So I don't know. But
apparently she's called my manager, Chris Rowe, for representation, which I think is really funny.
Oh boy. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know her as a person or anything like that, but that did seem kind of petty to me.
It's still the same.
Yeah.
Because I hear stories all the time. They say, you're so nice, Eileen. You're so nice, So,
well, that was the impression I got after talking with you.
At least I'm still here. I've lost a lot of money because of her, because of shows. If they can choose between her and me, they choose her. Because she's Linda Blair.
Yeah.
And then the fans dislike her, or the promoters like her, but it keeps happening. So, it used to bother me a lot. And I really didn't tell stories like this. And now it can't. I'm very, very fortunate. She's not working. I did, 10 horror films last year and something like that. So, the expression, I really can't complain.
Yeah.
I think it's nonsense. I can complain. I can complain all the time. Just listen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in happier news, we know you didn't necessarily you didn't necessarily get the credit you deserve, but your Pazuzu face has become iconic I was going to say in horror or thriller, but really in all of movie history. So you're up there, kid. You did it.
Yeah, talking about that.
At this point, Eileen holds up a Pazuzu statue, which she sells on her website, along with Pazuzu head, amulets, and all kinds of other goodies. EileenDietz.com, or reach out to her through her Facebook page.
And I know you want one. This isn't quite finished, but those are my Pazuzu statues I sell. It needs another coat and Vaseline to make it, not Vaseline, but spray.
Yeah.
To make it stand out more. But that's Pazuzu, and you can only get it here. Nobody else sells this statue. Yep. But I do sell the head as well, which is half the price.
So I know you know a little bit, because Pazuzu was actually a deity in Mesopotamia, ancient Mesopotamia. And I know, because I've listened to other interviews with you, so I know that that Exorcist was a little bit of slander against Pazuzu.
Well, Pazuzu, a lot of people say Pazuzu is also like a gargoyle, and they'll protect your house. And for some reason, it's lucky for pregnant women. I have no idea why. Oh,
I can fill you in on that. That is because he, in ancient Mesopotamia, had an arch enemy who was also a demon, a demoness, actually, named Lamashtu. And Lamashtu liked to attack pregnant women and eat babies. But Lamashtu was afraid of Pazuzu. So if you hung an amulet, those like the head that you're talking about, or like the head that Father Marin finds when he's in Iraq in the beginning of the film, if you hang that, in the room with the pregnant woman, the idea was that Lamashtu would become afraid and run away and not attack the pregnant woman or her child.
I love that story. I got to put it on Facebook for people who are afraid to buy Pazuzu. That's a great story. Can you
Pazuzu,
send me some kind of link or something so I can
no problem.
read it myself?
Yeah, there's actually a great YouTube video from the British Museum and their Mesopotamia collection curator, a guy named Irving Finkel, who looks like he's straight out of a Harry Potter movie and sounds like it too, talking about this. So I think you'll probably really enjoy it, but I'll send it to you. But yeah, so Pazuzu is still a demon, you know, he's still not like a great guy, but
you can't say he, you got to say it.
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 I mean, it does have a very large phallic symbol between its legs, but still, I guess we won't gender demons, I guess.
Looks like a cock to me.
Yeah. Do you have anything interesting to say about Helter Skelter? Because
it was just one of my favorite projects I ever did. And people always ask, I played a character I couldn't get in the car to go to the murders. It was too crowded. So luckily for my character. And I just love shooting it. I have the last line in the movie.
Death! That's what you're all gonna get!
And there were times that I really felt like it was real, because we sit around a campfire singing Manson songs and the moon was full. And if the camera wasn't there, it felt real. And when we were shooting at the end outside the courthouse, when everybody was on trial, the cameras went away down the street and people thought we were real with our bald heads, as you can see the picture behind you. And they started yelling at us and throwing things and stuff like that. So
well, and because it was filmed like just a couple of years after the events, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was still fresh on everybody's mind.
I loved it. I got that part by writing a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very proactive in my career because I belonged to a mime troupe in New York City where I grew up. And obviously he didn't ask us to murder anybody, but he did ask people to go out, get this, get that fabric for the show we're going to do at Lincoln Center. And I didn't do it. Or my roommate didn't do it, but people literally sat at his feet and he was God and he ended up in a mental institution. So I kind of wrote that in a letter and I said, there, but for the grace of God go I and my, people I knew. And I guess that's why they cast me. I never auditioned for it.
Yeah, I did. We actually did a whole, I think it ended up being 6 parts or so series on this podcast about the Manson family and the trials, but I wanted to focus more on the actual like real people and how they came to be in the family and all that kind of thing. And I had actor friends of mine, because I'm a theater person myself. I had actor friends come in and read like from their biographies or different things that they had written. I actually got a letter from Tex Watson, because I had written to him to ask if he had anything to say, and he did. Mostly go to my website and buy my books and stuff like that. But
he's still in jail, yes.
Oh yeah, he's not going anywhere. But,
I feel sorry for the girls.
It's a much more interesting story than people, when you just dismiss it as like, oh yeah, they got what they deserved and blah blah blah.
No, but in life, and our life too, if they just walked to the right instead of to the left, they would have killed anybody. They just the happenstance of their lives led them to Manson, and they were all vulnerable. It was the 60s and it was a different time and people were running away and they were looking for love and stuff. And Manson, we look at him, we go, really? Really? Yeah. But he was so charismatic that he got people to, but if they just walked the other way, and I'm sure many, many people did. And, they say they would rather have been put to death, electrocuted, than stay in jail their whole lives. But because it was Roman Polanski and what's her name? This girlfriend. Sharon Tate and, Folger, that's why they'll never let him out of jail, because jail is supposed to be about rehabilitation. And they'll just die there.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of research on them. Excuse me. So you see, I've had an incredibly eclectic career.
Yeah, and we only really talked about 2 of things or something. My mom was a big General Hospital fan, by the way.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah,
That was my other, you asked me my favorite projects. I can't really tell you, but I love doing General Hospital because I played a character in a mental hospital. And she was so vulnerable and so sweet. I'll send your mom an autographed picture. Is she still alive?
No, she's not, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
But it was such a great project, and you can find me doing that on YouTube. They have a couple of scenes there.
Sure. All right. So we've plugged the website and we've plugged the Facebook, but is there anything else that you want to mention before?
I'll just show this. This is my book.
At this point, Eileen holds up her book, which is entitled Exorcising My Demons. And of course, it's available through her website or preferably through her Facebook page.
And besides finding out everything you want to know about The Exorcist, which I have not mentioned today, there's a lot of other stuff in there and about the first day on the set and stuff like that. It's also a short, it's a biography because I didn't write it. I spoke it, but how I became an actress, how this little flat-chested girl with buck teeth and about yay high coming. I actually came after Twiggy and people like that, but actors from the 50s weren't that far behind, and they were all big and busty like Jane Mansfield or Bridget Bardot and people like that. There was little me going, I want to be an actress. And everybody said, are you kidding? That's including my parents. So I talk a lot, funny story. So I talk about how I became an actress, and there's my Me Too story when they took me out to Michigan to be in it's a fascinating story and very sad, but he brought me all the way out to Michigan from New York to do summer stock because he wanted to sexually abuse me.
Brother.
Then he sent me home. But I got my equity card. That's how Dan wrote it. I'm home on the bus going, and I looked down my hand, I had my equity card. I was a professional actor. But then there's a lot of funny stuff when I went to see Peter Pan, and I thought if I jumped on the stage, I could be one of the Lost Boys. And then I realized I could fall in the audience instead. And so I went back to sleep. So there's lots of really good stories about that. There's a little section about following your dreams. My sister's written 18 books, Denise Dietz, but she says, if you drop a dream, it breaks. So it's about dreams and following your dreams. If you want to be an actor, or director, you want to open up a wardrobe shop, you want to be a mom, anything that you want to be, don't let anybody stop you from it. And if you have to not talk about it, then don't talk about it. But don't let anybody not let you follow your dreams. And so that's what the book's about. And then there's at the end about what I've been doing lately, which is now old. And I'd have to add to that. So that's my book.
All right. And you
can
mentioned
also, you can get 8x10s. You can get Captain Howdy's green pea soup. You can get the original script. And like I said, go on my website, eileendietz.com. And then, go on my website. But then definitely either email me at Eileen@eileendietz.com. You wrote me at EileenDietz11. Doesn't matter. Email me there if you want to get something and autographed, and we'll go from there.
All right. I know I got a Pazuzu statue coming my way. I ordered one already.
You absolutely do. You get it in probably a week or two.
All right. Sounds good. So it will protect all pregnant women that leave my apartment.
But if, I don't know if we've covered everything. If you want to do something again, I'll be glad to come back.
All right. I'll keep that in mind. Well, thank you so much for being here and making the time. And I know it was a bit of a struggle, but we made it.
We got the voice. I still don't know what was wrong, but I don't care.
Know what was going on,
we got it right. But
we just kept pressing buttons until it worked.
I know. I didn't hear much from you. We have to do it again so you can talk.
All right.
I mean, but I'm serious. You just asked me a question. I'm gone.
All right. Yeah. There's plenty more I would like to get into. So I'm sure, if you're up for it, we will talk again someday.
Yeah, let's do it in a week or two. Okay.
Okay. For now, I'll let you go and have a good time at your party.
Okay.
Happy birthday to the birthday boy or girl.
Yeah.
And,
no, that's a boy. He's Christopher Rowe. Happy birthday. And my manager is Chris Rowe, and he handles a lot of horror people.
All right. Very good.
Like
well, thank
Malcolm
you for making
McDowell
time.
And stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome. Have a great weekend. Okay.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
So there you have it. Hopefully what was just part 1 of my interview with Eileen Dietz. I have been trying to schedule a second session with her. So far, we haven't been able to put anything on the calendar, but we are still in contact, so hopefully that goes smoothly. Also, since the time we recorded this, I have received my Pazuzu statue, and it's now proudly displayed in my kitchen. You will see it in future YouTube videos and videos that I do for Patreon. I was actually hoping to do the second interview very shortly after we did the first interview so that I could present it all as one and perhaps make it a little bit smoother. But, you know, such is the way the cookie crumbles, and this turned out to be a full-length episode anyway, so it worked out just fine. And like I said, hopefully we'll have another shot and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about all the things that we covered. But one thing that I would like to point out is, of course, you know, I wasn't paying Eileen to do this interview, and she only did it because she's a nice person. And I basically just reached out to her through email from her website and explained, you know, oh, we met a long time ago and, you know, you seemed cool, so I'd like to interview you for the podcast. And she very graciously said yes. But one thing that would be wonderful if you spookaroos could do it is if you do go to her website, find something that you might like to purchase from her, and then, you know, order it from her through the email, like she said, or through the Facebook. And, you know, it's cool because this is an iconic character. Even if you're more in the Linda Blair camp and say, oh, you know, she hardly did anything in the movie, she's, you know, whatever. Well, whatever, she's still in the movie. This is one of the greatest movies of all time, one of the greatest horror thriller movies of all time, and this is a classic character, and no collection is complete without it. So I highly recommend that you go to her website and find something, like she said, whether it's the script, whether it's a Pazuzu statue, whether it's a signed 8x10, whatever you want, she's got it there. Look through her website, go to her Facebook page, and find something, and let her know that Eric D. from Spooky Times with Eric D. is the one who sent you there. And I'm sure she will be grateful, and know that, you know, when she does these kind of podcast interviews, it's not for nothing. She actually gets a little feedback from it, and hopefully makes a sale or two. So please go ahead and do that, spookaroos. Don't forget to check out spookyas.com. Don't forget the Patreon. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, and all that kind of stuff. And until next time, don't be afraid.
Spooky Times is a Witchfinder production.
Mommy, help me, you pig.